Welcome to Raven Talk, the official podcast of the Raven Tribe. The Raven Tribe is a home for warriors on the path, and is dedicated to training warriors for the battlefield of life. Visit us on the web at theraventribe.com, where you can learn more information on membership, warrior training, as well as links to our official YouTube channel, Facebook group, apparel store, and our official bookstore, Marshall Books.
Welcome back, Tribe. We're here with special guest, Professor Sean Kelley. Today we're going to be discussing bullying here in the United States and how we can protect our children. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great. Well, Sean, thank you for coming back on. It's always great to talk to you, and I'm really looking forward to delving into this subject. It's something we haven't covered on our podcast before, and you're definitely the man to go to for this. So if we could, Sean, can you just get us started and let me know. I mean, you're a career martial artist. You work in, this private security field. You've trained all kinds of people. What led you to deal with bullying specifically as a topic?
Well, first of all, I was a victim myself. I mean, that's kind of like what prompted the martial arts direction as a young child. First episode happened when, 5 years old. And, it kind of repeated itself a few different times, and then also, my friends, schoolmates, which is, everybody points fingers toward the school because of the situation at hand. More importantly, though, what happened around 2012, I'll use that as the target concern, was my daughter. My daughter ran into a middle school situation that I was not just going to let it drop because of the situation at hand. And when I basically, got the phone call from the school, having to have a meeting and all that, the bottom line was, I'm like, well, wait a minute. What happened shouldn't have happened, especially when your child's dropped off at school, and you would think, being in the hands of, of the facilitators, that somebody would intervene or somebody would be there at least to oversee a circumstance when it becomes more aggressive than just words being thrown. Here in this case, it was physical, assault. And one of the things I just brought up when I was doing a seminar in Salisbury, Maryland, on this very topic, and one of the things that was there was talking about bullying and educating not only the listeners but also the students. One of the vendors there, along with myself as a guest, was, of course, Marcus Dent, who's the Baltimore chapter commander and with the Guardian Angels. He was there as a speaker as well. But so were some of the local Salisbury Police Department, which was perfect for a question that I was going to propose to them. And I basically went into the arena of what took place with my daughter. And I'll kind of go through this ever so slightly just to give you a vision. She had her backpack on. She was there with her schoolmates, outside before school would be called to go into your homeroom or into class. So you're outside waiting before the bell does. And so a man walks up, who she really barely even knew, pretty much wanted her to give him a hug. And here, you're talking middle school, so that's a delicate situation anyways with that age bracket, especially with the girls. And she's like, no, I don't even know you. I don't do that. Well, he didn't like the word no. So the verbal no is first. So the next part, he decides to grab her eyeglasses off her face. So when he did that, she's like, you better give me back my glasses, And so technically, he took them off her face physically. Then, to proceed forward, he grabs and pulls her backpack off her person, trying to, make the situation become more worse. So she's like, I said, give me my stuff. Well, the third final move was he decided to kick her in her legs, into her body. And so you got strike one, the eyeglasses being taken. You get the two where her backpack full with her school books and whatnot and whatever other property was taken. And then third, he kicked her. He struck her. And so I asked the officers, I said, I'm going to ask you a few things if I were to call you in lieu of a concern that, is there a charge or would someone be held responsible, or is there something that a person can call in and say, hey, wait a minute, this person just literally took off my eyeglasses? And so he said, no, that's theft. I said, okay, well then, what about her backpack? He said, that's, stuff to get. And I said, well, then he kicked it. He said, that's considered battery. I said, so we have 3 counts, okay, that have been a criminal act, not just kids being kids, as they want to say. I said, so is it a fair statement to say when it comes to our rights as citizens that I never recall anywhere in the amendment that states that your rights are only at a certain age? Have you ever heard of that?
No, absolutely not.
And that was what I proposed. So I said to him, prior to me getting a phone call to come to the school to have this meeting with counselors and a principal, I made a phone call to my local police department with some police officers who I knew, a particular lieutenant. I said, hey, Lieutenant, I'm on my way over to this middle school, and I need to ask you a quick few questions before I go there. He said, sure, I'm over at, the Green Acres Park, which is, Green Acres is the name of the city. So it was on my way to where I was going. So I met him, and I said the same thing I just said to you, to the officer at this lecture that I did, and I said the same thing. I said, well, about the glasses, about the backpack, and about the physical strike to her person. And the officer, both of them had said the same thing. Yeah, he'd be, in a heap of trouble, and we would basically, he'd be cited for all those 3 things. I said, well, my daughter, after the 3rd attempt, decided to defend herself, and she struck him in the groin with a strike. And so what they do in school is they have rules. And there's a difference between a rule and the law. So the political arena is, in the school system, where 2 individuals have an altercation, that the way to solve it is to put them in this in-school suspension or whatever the issue is, and not teach them or instruct them about their legal rights. And basically sweep it under the rug as, well, that's just kids being kids, but because you both were in a confrontation, let's just equally reprimand them in this content. And it was at that point, Thomas, wait a minute. Bullying is a blanket statement, and there's all kinds of levels of bullying. It could be from the cyberbullying to the physical to the emotional. It could be from a victim standpoint. It could be from the person who is the bully. And the third one really technically is something to pay attention to, and that is the bystander. And the bystander, and it's being talked about by local, state, federal, different people in the political arena about these bystanders where they're using today's trend, and as well with being involved with the Guardian Angels, with these people that are out YouTubing or on these social media outlets, they will do things that are crime elemented. And they videotape this stuff, and they put it out there, and it's going on, but not doing anything in regards to stopping it or calling someone of authority. So my concept, and I brought this up, was what may be considered, or at least the interest of consideration of, technically, they're a part of this, which makes them an accessory to the crime. Why? Because they're videotaping it. That means they're a part of it. They're a part of it, directly or indirectly. It's like a robbery. Well, I wasn't the guy who did it. No, but you were standing with them. So when I started putting this program together, I'm like, you can't complain, you can't do anything unless you have a solution. And to propose a balanced solution, both within the guidelines of our school system, those are the institutions and other places, because I realize, and we all do as parents if you have a child in school, the numbers are phenomenal to the ratio of teachers or counselors or facilitators versus student body. And because of the liberal mentality of, we just don't want to wrinkle up any, clothes or ruffle up some feathers. We just need to handle this delicately. Well, because of that, this is why it's gotten so bizarre and out of hand. So what we did is said, let's negotiate and meet in the middle. And the way to meet in the middle is, ever since the technology has come about where, maybe when you or I were a child or a kid coming up in school, you couldn't wait for the bell to ring so you could just leave the problem and go home and it wouldn't follow you. Well, now because of all these social media situations, whether it be a cellular device or your computer, these things are now following them. Okay, you're being hijacked either by your image or, for example, today during my security duty, we had an altercation with a group of teenagers ready to have a fight, or 7 against 2, and it all started with a comment put on Facebook, which they wrote an intent. They wrote their intentions to cause bodily harm and meet these individuals at a particular location. So that's a document. That means they had all due intentions to do what they said they're going to do, and they try to, go forward with it. But obviously, myself and a parent being there deterred it. In other words, we were able to stop it from going any further. So when we did this program, it was based on the martial arts theme. And what I mean by that is now martial arts schools are a full-time educational commercial type industry all over the world. And in most schools, they teach, if they're teaching a martial art, discipline in certain ways to better their confidence level, build self-esteem. And they learn about self-restraint. And they learn about their right to protect themselves and protect their peace. But because of the physical capabilities, they learn also verbal judo skills, how to use a certain vocabulary, and to encounter that maybe when you're having a problem, you can have a mentor or a leader. And that's where I thought the marriage of the Guardian Angels formula and the martial arts community is a great marriage, hand in hand. It really is. So we open up these martial arts safe places where they become a focal point to a community, and then allows the principal, who really gets caught in the middle trying to find out really where the truth comes, and not on 9 out of 10 times may never. So then the parents irate and mad and unhappy, and sometimes these situations have a retaliation. I mean, nobody really wins. So we developed this program that takes it out of the school, and we said, let's use our referral program, which is like going to a doctor. I refer you to go to the experts. Well, the martial arts community are technically, we're pretty good at what we do. I'm proud to say after 30 plus years being an international instructor, being in the security industry and currently going to the FBI Citizens Academy, I've learned a few things. And those things will allow me to educate the people I come into encounter with, such as skills, education, and reunite what's going wrong with our society and targeting our law enforcement the way they are. I mean, literally to go out and to assassinate and do all this division versus we need these first responders. Do you realize what you're telling the public to do or not to do? Who wants to be a person in law enforcement today with all the problems? Nobody. Sure how they ain't going to pay that much. And how much is life worth? A lot. So what we developed was this idea called Stomp. Put your foot down, but use the martial arts community outside the normal karate punch and kick, but get them as black belts to get involved with their community. Since they want to do business in the community, how about serving the community by doing a community service? And this is how we do it. It's a 90-day program where it's sponsored by someone who really cares about a kid of any level, of any age. And that is, who wouldn't want to help a child do better, or maybe even save a life? But because of our society being that where most of the situations today, it's a single mom. There is no role model. And the coaches today will learn to teach motivational skills, how to use good words, kind words, versus this dialect that they're using in the vocabulary that is insulting even against their own friends. So it's a whole new learning curve, but in the room and in the discipline and in the surroundings of the martial way. And the discipline comes back. The respect comes back. And what's missing is how to be law-abiding. And, remember when they used to have the DARE program? Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Well, it lost its charter. So how do I know that I'm breaking the law if I don't know anything about it, if it's not being discussed or even spoken about? So this sense of entitlement and the frustrations and all these other factors play into the word bullying. And bullying is a behavior, and it's learned at the younger educational levels, starting as young as, believe it or not, 3 and 4 years old in the preschool element. I witnessed it. I've seen it. And if I'm not sensitive, I mean like microsensitive to the behavior, I won't stop it. I'll just ignore it. Whereas martial arts facilitators, we kind of have a little sense of heightened senses. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think we're definitely tuned into that. Anything related to conflict and violence is definitely something.
We're tuned in.
Yes.
We pay attention to word choices, adjectives. We pay attention to demographics. We pay attention to crime preventative measures. We try to pay attention to and teach our students about better health and wellness. But when you're in a violent world, you need to learn to step up and be more aware, and to try to think you're going to use negotiation methods with children, try again. So if I teach them more about the body and how it works and and first of all, it's good for them. It's great exercise. Maybe they'll put their toys down and get out of their bedroom and become a little more social. Maybe we'll learn a little bit about their health concerns, better eating habits. We got diabetes now with the adult diabetic measures now being plagued on our children. Muscle density is much more poor. Riding a bicycle, good luck with that one. And, all the things that they're going to be needing to deal with the time when it becomes corporate America. So the Stomp the Bully program was done with myself, and the co-founder along with me is Michael Miller, who's a martial arts school owner in Bradford, Pennsylvania, but who also was a child service worker for the state of state of Pennsylvania. So he was a state caseworker. So he's learned a few things by being in that field before becoming, a full-time martial arts instructor. So we both started going around and talking on the subject about bullying behavior or options that can be available. And what I wanted to do, because I've gone to a lot of these seminars that are in the communities, whether it be a school or a college, and most of them are not very tangible. Go to my website, here's my flyer, and maybe some psychotherapist comes in and tells their point of view. Well, it doesn't answer the problem. So what we did is started creating martial arts state places where we have facilitators who become certified in our program, and they institute it and bring it to light in their communities by becoming a local focal point where the referral, where a teacher, a principal, a parent, a local politician uses this as ammunition by saying, excuse me, ma'am, I fully understand your problem with this situation, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do everything in my power to get to the root of it. But in the interim, I'm going to give you a referral. Take this form, I'll sign it, go to this location, okay, and they will help you go forward with finding a solution where we can not guarantee a fix, but at least walk us through collectively through unity and community and effort to make this situation correct itself. And so technically you're using the martial arts science, whether it be the psychological, the emotional, or even the physical level, to empower them to feel good about things that they just can do well with versus their mistakes that are always pointed out, or how they don't fit in, or where their financial status isn't up to par, or because they don't have the cool sneakers or the best-looking haircut, or this young lady, she doesn't have the up-to-par looking, dress or things of this sort. This is how they get divided. This is how they get pushed aside. So we can empower them about feeling good about themselves. And then the 90-day program is something that is monitored by a qualified instructor. But then after the 90 days, this is where it goes into a second level. They then go into becoming a junior guardian angel, which means for another 90 days, they do things that most kids won't do. What is that? Go visit the senior citizen location. Go and talk to these people who only wish they had visitors. Go do some community cleanup. Get the graffiti off the wall. Go meet your local mayor, city manager. Get a little walk through your local police department. Because we did that down here, and we got Senator Jeff Clemens, Elsie Hastings, who's a member of Congress. We got people in the entertainment business. You know, the guy who actually played, you know, the bad guy in the Karate Kid movies, Martin Coe, who was with Cobra Kai. Remember that?
Yes. Something crazy.
Yes. Yep. He's actually endorsed this, and he said, hey, whatever I can do. Vanilla Ice, you know, a.k.a. Robbie Van Winkle, you know, he's sporting our cap, saying, you know, hey, I believe in this. Because he said, he goes, I have a kid. I have children. I understand. And then he relates because of what he went through coming up through the music industry and how, you know, it put him into a cul-de-sac. So bullying it's not playing cool. It's not. When you're losing lives and people are committing suicide, those are children. Those are family members. Those are adults. They're of all levels, of all different colors and, you know, genders and ethnic backgrounds. So I think the martial arts community is a great outlet because, first of all, they're always looking for business to get new students involved. Whereas if they become the local focal point in doing something of service, the hardest thing is to what? Find a sponsor? It costs you more money to put them through a rehabilitation than getting them the help they need to help empower them through something they know they'll feel good because of the movements and because of the audience in which they're now setting themselves into a positive environment versus the negative environment. You know, and to teach them the wrongs and the rights, because they basically will do what everybody else is doing, and if that's what their friends are doing because they think it's cool, well then, let's join in. So I can share with you today, about 2 hours ago, I had a bullying situation, 5 kids against 2 smaller ones, and get to the root of it. Now, I'm also very proud to say that we adapted an FBI liaison who actually contacted me, and it was because he read an article that was in the Palm Beach Post newspaper, and then an interview I did with a local TV station, 12. So he contacted me, and now it was because of all this relationship we've been building for 5 years. Like he said to me, he says, Sean Kelley, he says, I know everything I need to know about you. That's my job. And he says, I grew up in New York, so I'm very familiar with the Guardian Angels and what they stood for. He says, I also studied the martial arts. And so I know what it does to a person and what it did for me. He says, you may get a lot of doors closed, but you're going to get the ones that you want open to be open because this is definitely something of need. So I can encourage you to proceed forward. And I'm a dad. So this is a father, a kid at 5 that happened to me. So I can tell you the street that it happened, the town I lived in, and the names of 2 individuals who did it, because it's part of my lecture. That tells you how impacting and how this will scar someone for life versus those being strong enough and doing the right thing and step up and stop these situations before they escalate to the bad, to where losing lives. We want our children to be going to school. We want them to not hit the wrong side of the street because all these elements, when it hits them emotionally, they'll be depressed. They'll start skipping school. That will lead them into the drug world. You know, we already have a growing problem with human trafficking. There's one field that will play into another, and it all roots itself like a seed in dirt. It'll grow if it's not tackled and not nurtured correctly. And I feel strongly to tell you that the martial arts community, okay, and they too, by the way, have to have background checks. So we're very careful with this. So they have to qualify. And we have different levels, like we just did a level 1. So we now have safe places in Delray Beach, Florida, Lake Mary, which is near Orlando, Bradford, Pennsylvania. Sean Rogers, who's the Guardian Angel Regional Director in Southern California, has got 4 cities that he's implementing an interest right now as I speak to you. Salisbury, Maryland, with R.S. Mitchell and Mitchell's Martial Arts Academy. And West Palm Beach, there's a gentleman there we have 7 locations that are now capable to be pointed to for this very subject. And it's growing. And the way it will grow is by people contacting us and saying, how do I get involved? And we'll give them the steps. Now, there are tons of different avenues of bully or anti-bully programs. This program, I feel strong to say, is twofold. The first 90 days is with a martial arts facilitator. The other 90 days is with a veteran guardian angel who's going to teach you how to be proud of your town and city and give back by being a good citizen. Second of all, it's one of the requirements anyways as a child or a kid when they give back to public and set their own reputation. So hopefully we use the Red Berets as another signal to say, when Curtis Fleetwood started something in 1979, it was to serve community. Well, now we have 90 days of the martial arts and its empowerment, and we have 90 days of the theme of the spirit of the guardian angels. We now have 6 months of changed behavior. And that's our motive right there. That's the mission, is to see if we can change the way they think, answer, and build a relationship called a rapport. It's like the Big Brother, Big Sister program where they learn how to open up and be heard, teach them about their rights. I don't know if playing and touching another person was wrong. Well, that's why they keep doing it. Then they go into high school, and next thing you know, we got these young men touching the females in parts of their body they shouldn't, and the next thing they're arrested for sexual assault. Well, I didn't know. Well, guess what? That don't matter anymore. So if we teach this as a precursor, okay, I'm not saying it's foolproof, but at least instruct it. We may have some citizens that are going to be a little more civic-minded, a little more with humility, a little more in pride, and maybe they'll even pull their pants up and act like real human beings, whether it be gentlemen or young women, and be respectful and take pride, not only within themselves, but things that they should concern themselves with, and that is like family, friends, or their spiritual past. So, in a nutshell, that's it. And I'm adamant to the point I believe in it. I say that the word has gotten out. It's built momentum. We're on Facebook. We have a website. The website, for those even interested, is www.stomp, S-T-O-M-P, thebullying.net, N-E-T. And we would be more than happy to get more people involved in the martial arts community and share with the others. And what we've found, though, is the bravery and the confidence within the martial arts personnel, students, and teachers stands up at a level higher anyways for the ones who really want to go and become a black belt person or someone of excellence. So we have already the right direction of where to recruit this. And the bottom line is to hopefully in different places that adapt and make change is to save lives, because it's pretty bad. It's dreadful. And that's my role. And the other roles of the other facilitators, they all just add to the bigger picture. And with the bullying headliner, we've joined forces with Palm Beach Harvest, which is an organization, non-for-profit, that rescues food that would typically be thrown out. Instead, we use that food and we give people who are either homeless. For example, last year, Thanksgiving, we gave out 4,000 meals. So joining into the community is such a unique thing to do. Of giving back is the greatest reward to mankind. So one way or another, we'll run into the company of others who are on the same page of interest and concern, And hopefully this will become, again, another button in a community where they go, well, wait a minute, there's this new program I heard that's going on. Let's get in touch with them. Because that's how the Guardian Angels came to Palm Beach County in 1986. It was just two people who said, one was a store owner, another one used to be, he was a radio show host, and he knew Curtis. And he said, we need to reach out. It's at that point that the local law enforcement and political figures, they don't have all the answers, nor do they claim they did. This is a combined effort. And so that's how we kind of like made this happen, by using our networking skills. And that's where I decided to use those advantages. And I have people in the entertainment business, people in the political arena, martial arts experts, some of those experts are in the movie industry. But bottom line is, the ones I'm talking about are parents, their fathers, their mothers. Some of them were victims, and they tell their own story. And so they get it. They understand why this is important. And I'm happy to say, having outlets like yourself who are willing to even allow us to spread the word or to be heard, we found that sometimes them listening to a voice, would it be myself or you or a few others, then they go, oh, man, I'm not alone. I thought this was just me. And that's kind of like how this kind of picked up others finding out about us. So technically the world today with social media and technology has allowed us to spread the voice. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate all your work, Sean. I mean, it's a very innovative way of engaging the martial arts community. I think that anybody listening, by and large, our audience is comprised of people that are martial artists or have been involved with the martial arts. And I think it's pretty safe to say that people in our generation, before the after school, martial arts, activities became a little bit more popular, I think that at least I would wager to say 1 in 3 of us got involved in the martial arts because of bullying at some way.
Well, but it's funny you said that, because statistically, when I was doing this with traveling to the martial arts schools, I just got back from South America. I go there every year to San Diego, Chile, and the only thing that separates me from them is just the language barrier. But the passion, the camaraderie, I have found, and I can't pinpoint how to tell someone else how to understand this, but the martial arts people and the community of it is such a common denominator that it's like having a AAA card. Your car breaks down, you call the service, and hopefully they'll come and, help you out. Well, the martial arts community, and even more so the Guardian Angel members and those who are volunteers. I've got friends of mine that are still my friends 30 years from now, and I'll tell you what, I could be anywhere in the world, and if I had a situation of concern, I know exactly who and where to dial, and I'll get immediate help. But that's a fact. And that's a very profound statement when you go, wow, how was it that this happened? I think it happened by the spirit of how these types of people come together for like-minded interests. And the martial arts has always been a phenomenal science, whether it be by its culture or just the fascination of it. And for those who are still discovering themselves. So, most of us will always take on the consideration of thinking, I'm going to be a citizen forever, and which means what? Doing something that's right. Pay attention. Something's out of line, tell someone. Don't ignore it. But also as a martial artist, it's like it's excellence, and the high peak of that excellence is to establish what's a real black belt, not one that's bought and you got it in 2 years and someone said, okay, how many push-ups can you do? I'm talking about the whole mind, body, and soul, and the maturity. And once you become a master of your own self, which is one of those things that takes many generations and learning cycles, but you learn how to humble yourself. The more you know, the less you show. And this is where ego gets put aside. Now, ego is often a positive thing. It's not a bad thing, especially if it drives you to the higher level of achievement. But when we have right now more bullying going on, and it's right in our political arena. Am I wrong?
No, it looks like bullying is found in every aspect of our society.
Do you see how much money they're spending on going after each other's skeletons in the closet? That money could have fed a whole lot of people sleeping in the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Definitely.
And you want to talk about lead by example? So how does someone like you or I go and talk to these kids and say, well, listen, what you're doing is called bullying, and that's not very good behavior, you know, that kind of thing. Bullying is going to get to the point, because it's already made changes in the last few years, because it did reach the White House, and then Obama came on and started making others in the legislation start changing some of the rules. Whereas now there's more mechanisms in check where someone can actually cast a complaint and not have to worry about retaliation. Now, we also have bullying in corporate America. I mean, extremely so, where they think their power gives them better rights than their employees. So when I said bullying is a blanket statement, I meant it. And there's so many like subcategories. But I have this book that I go around showing people. It's called Bullying on Attack. And what it means is, not only are there true stories in there of the individuals being bullied, but the people who did the bullying. And every story, almost 80, if not 90% of these cases, are school students. I mean, if you ask someone, hey, where was it that you got bullied? Oh, it was when I was going to school, or when I was leaving school, or I was at the bus stop. These kind of things. Now we got the Facebook retaliation, or some of these other social media outlets. And the kids think, oh, I'm just going to Snapchat that or use Kick, because when I hit the delete button, it's gone. Well, let me just share a little sense of education, which is something we talk to the students about. Just because you push delete doesn't mean it's gone, because law enforcement agency have what's called forensic science, which means they can go into your cellular device, and even though you hit the delete button, they have access to everything and anything that came in and also went out. So to me, it's all about education. So the more you educate, we're hoping more it has impact. Now, does it mean it's foolproof again? Never at all. Because the statement I was telling with some of these parents during this group session was, do you remember when you were a kid? And a lot of them nodded their head, yes. I said, you remember when there's that thing or two you just wanted to keep from your parents, and you did? Yeah. Well, guess what your children are doing? They're better at it than you and I. Because now they even have codes in their own little lingo, in their own little body language. And we have this going on. We have children having children, and we don't have enough responsible parenting. And the old saying, it took a neighborhood to raise a child, was kind of forgotten. Which means even if it's not your kid, if it's a child, if it's a kid of any age, they're everybody's responsibility. Bottom line.
Well, very wise words, Sean. They ring very true, and this is definitely an important topic. I'm glad that you are out there, manning the efforts to, make some headway on this, because it's something that does affect everybody. Like you said, anybody with kids, unless your kid's living in a bubble, they're going to get bullied at one point in time or another.
Exactly.
In one form or another, it's going to happen. And we need to be, ready for it. We need to know that we have some solutions and some options for protecting our children, because they're the most important thing that any of us have.
We joined on the team of helpers. People we have a psychotherapist, we have an attorney, we have this FBI liaison, we have professional people. And you start getting these people who are facilitators themselves, and they see things, for example, for about 29, 30 years, I have taught as a martial arts instructor, which means I've taught hundreds, if not thousands of students of all ages. I mean, literally. So that means you start to learn a few things. Then when you're starting to go on a traveling situation where I've been all over the country, let it be Ireland or going to the United Kingdom, Canada, throughout the United States, South America, etc., there's some things that stand out, and you learn by being a good listener. And then you find those few people, these true, dedicated people to their passion, to their art. And then I encounter these young men and women who feel the same way I do. And you said it earlier about a lot of them know from their own childhood experiences. And that's where the delicate part matters the most, because they get it because of that microsensitivity. So I'm very proud to say people like Mark Pearson, Michael Miller, R.S. Mitchell, Marcus Dent from Baltimore, Norman Whipple, some of these names you might remember from the Guardian Angels. He's out of Georgia, and Sean Rogers out of California, and Michael Friedman, who's in the Lake Mary, Florida area, Blake Bannister, who's in the Lantana, Lake Worth area. I can go on. And Carlos Cabanas was one of the original Guardian Angels with me when we started in the early 80s in the West Palm Beach area, who all took deep consideration and concern. And even my daughter, who's now 19 and is a preschool teacher, she was the reason I launched it. And I wanted to do this because I knew there was other fathers, I knew there was other mothers who just loved their children well enough to come as we're supposed to be there for our children and defend their rights and teach them about their rights. And sometimes it's okay to stand up, to an adult who may be wrong or who may be ignoring your rights or your safety. And this is really, really important, and that is that the safety comes out. And when you're putting yourself out there, and there's a sense of negligence and liability that's put on every one of us if you are the person in charge of a group of individuals and they're at your hands. So you need to pay attention from the front door to the back door to everything else in between. And then to wake up these martial arts personalities and say, you know something? You need to step out of the dojo and get back into your community, because that's who you want your business clientele from, which is fine. But martial arts people, typically, from our old school way, we have a little sense of honor and dignity and patriotic views and bring back value to our individual communities, not watch them go to hell in a handbasket. And I pretty much putting out the verbal challenge saying, okay, you're this person, you're an expert in this thing, yeah? Well, step up. Take off the Superman suit, step out of your four walls, and get out into your community, since this is where you want to get your business from, and help someone in need. And you'll feel good inside, which comes from the inside out. So that's my motivation, and I'm going to continue doing it until I can.
Well, Sean, again, your efforts are very much appreciated, and I applaud your efforts. Definitely something that the community out there needs to be aware of, needs to get involved in. I would strongly urge anybody in the listening audience that is interested in getting on board with the Stomp the Bully program to get in touch with Mr. Kelley. Sean, can you give us some information as to where they can reach out to you if they're interested in
They can actually go to the website, like I was just telling you. That's www.stompthebullying.net. Everything's there. I'm also on Facebook, either under Sean Kelley or the Stomp the Bullying Facebook page. So we're quite easy to find, and I'd be more than happy to share, the experiences and to hopefully, point people in the right direction or get them to come on board on this, I believe, a very much needed movement.
Great. Well, Sean, again, thank you for making time out of your busy schedule to come on the show with us today, and it's always great having you on. And again, to all the listeners, bullying will affect you or your children at some point.
Exactly.
we have people out there working really hard to, make efforts to have options for you. So please get out there and do your part as well, because it takes more than just one person. It takes a whole team. Sean, so again, thank you very much for being on today. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll send you a picture. Maybe you can put something that would catch people's interest. If you put it towards a link